Look closely at this fruit. Doesn't it look like a tiny muskmelon? Well, that's because it's actually a variety of muskmelon that's found in India. This fruit has symbolic importance in the festival of Diwali, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today. That is, what this fruit symbolizes both mythologically and scientifically, and also share some stories of Diwali in the process. Hi everyone, I'm Deepak. Welcome back to My Theology, where we dissect ancient myths and try to make sense of them. The fruit we were talking about is called karita, chirata, or chiro, depending on which part of India you're from. If you grew up in Maharashtra, India, you probably have memories of crushing this bitter fruit under your foot on the morning of Diwali. Something about killing a demon, right? So let's first talk about Diwali or Diwali. The basic premise behind this festival is right there in its name. Diwali means a row of lights. So it is a Hindu festival of lights that celebrates the victory of light or good over darkness. It is typically a 4 to 6 day harvest festival with each of its day associated with its own story. Today, we're going to talk about the second day of Diwali or Narakachaturdashi. This day falls on the 14th day of the second half of the month of Ashwin, and it commemorates the death of the tyrant Narakasura. You might remember him from our previous video, but today let's flesh this story out a little bit more. According to the legend, when Vishnu descended to the earth in his Varaha avatar to kill the Asura Hiranyaksha, a drop of his sweat fell on the earth, personified as goddess Bhudevi, and a boy was born. This boy was adopted by King Janaka of Mithila, Sita's father, and named Naraka. He overthrew the king of Pragyotishpur and ruled for years. He was renowned for being pious. His 4 sons grew up to make names for themselves in the epic Mahabharata. All this changed when, at some point, Narak came in contact with Banasar, the king of a neighboring kingdom, Shunitapur. It's said that it was the influence of Banasar that made Narak malicious, owing to which he began to be called Narakasura instead of plain old Narak. Narakasura brought all the kingdoms on earth under his sway, capturing 16,000 princesses of defeated kingdoms and imprisoning them atop the mountain Maniparvata. Narakasura then turned his attention towards the heavens and defeated Indra, the king of all the gods. He even stole earrings that belonged to Aditi, the mother of all devas. That was the end of Aditi's patience. She approached Satyabhama, Krishna's wife, to request her to put an end to Narakasura's tyranny. Together, Satyabhama and Krishna attacked the impregnable fortress at Pragyotishpur, riding Krishna's mount, the Garuda. What followed was a battle between 2 equally matched opponents. But Narakasura finally managed to gain the upper hand when he hits Krishna in the chest with the boar tusk he received as a gift from Vishnu himself in his Varaha avatar. The irony, huh? Seeing her husband unconscious, Satyabhama is enraged and retaliates with all her fury and manages to kill Narakasura. She returned Aditi's earrings, and Krishna marries the 16,000 princesses as a gesture of returning the lost honor of all these girls and their conquered kingdoms. Talk about couple goals, right? Now, remember what I told you about boons and penances in the previous video? Well, as Narakasura is dying, he recalls his boon from Brahma that he could only be killed by his mother, and realizes that Satyabhama is actually an incarnation of his mother, Bhudevi. In his final moments, he starts to repent his actions and begs his mother for forgiveness. He pleads that the world remember him with joy and not hate. Thus, this day, Narakachaturdashi, is celebrated for its victory of good over evil, of light over darkness, by lighting lamps and bursting firecrackers. What this day also celebrates is equality in marriage. It shows how love means fighting battles and winning wars together. Now, if you followed our previous videos, you kind of expect that there are multiple versions to each story, and this one is no exception. There are versions of this story in which it was Krishna and not Satyabhama that ultimately killed Narakasura. Some say that Krishna used his Sudarshana chakra to chop Narakasura's head off. Others say that Krishna stamped Narakasura with the heel of his left foot and destroyed him. It is said that Krishna smeared some of Narakasura's blood on his forehead as a mark of victory. If you look at these carefully, you kind of start to notice that these stories were probably written by people with very different ideologies. On the one hand, there's Satyabhama, a warrior princess who killed Narakasura more as a duty towards her subjects than anything else. She even forgives Narakasura as he nears his last breath. The story of Krishna, however, has a generous serving of masculine pride in it. Apparently, when Krishna returned home, his wives washed the blood off of him and anointed him with perfumed oils and an elaborate bath. You see what I mean? Some myths also suggest that it was goddess Kali that killed Narakasura, and hence this day is also called Kali Chaudas. But there is an interesting story that shows that both Krishna and goddess Kali came from the same embryo. There's also some evidence that suggests that Naraka and Banasur were actual historical characters, and if that were the case, there might have been more than one Naraka, and that Bhagavata was most likely just the son of the last Naraka. You see how interesting all these connections are, and the more I dig, the more there is. But we shall explore all these rabbit holes at a later time. Meanwhile, the tradition of waking up at the crack of dawn to have a bath with exfoliants, herbs, and perfumes on Narakachaturdashi is still followed by many families to this day. In Marathi, this ritual is called Abhyangasnan, and the exfoliant is called Purna. Some people even apply kumkum to their foreheads before the bath, akin to Krishna smearing Narakasura's blood. And finally, here's the connection that you've all been waiting for, the fruit that I told you about. Another ritual on Narakachaturdashi is to crush the correct fruit under one's toe or heel to signify killing Narakasura, to remind oneself not to make the kind of bad decisions that got him into so much trouble. It's been in families for centuries and has even been documented in the 1961 Census of India volume on Maharashtra. But we obviously can't stop at that. We wanted to know why this fruit in particular, and we have a few working theories to go off of. The first one is that since this perennial plant fruits around August and November, this fruit could have been abundant during the cold months when Diwali is celebrated. The next reason could be that this fruit had some significance in the lives of people when the ritual first started. For starters, it is drought tolerant, so that explains why the fruit has been around for millions of years. It's also very effective against parasitic worms. So if you're a farmer working in the soil for long periods of time and exposing your feet to all sorts of parasites, this fruit could have been very helpful. The contact time in the ritual, though, is pretty small for any significant anthelmintic activity. But maybe in the olden times, they extracted the juices from this fruit and used it in a more productive way than just crushing it and throwing it in the bin like the modern day ritual. And finally, The most basic reason for using the curried fruit could be that it has the right size and toughness for a ritual like this. So there you have it. We've seen how a wise king, Nara, turns evil because of the company he keeps and is killed as a result. But at least we get to burst crackers, eat a ton of really good food and a lot of sweets. Keeping in the spirit of Deepavali, share this video with your friends and family. And don't forget to hit the like button if you actually like the video and subscribe. So until next time, ciao.